motivate learners to use English during the breaks or even outside the classroom. I think a lot of these things would work as well. So hopefully for 2012, that's one of your goals is to get your English language learners to use English outside the classroom. Now I know that's kind of difficult. I was teaching English in Germany, and so that was one of the things that I had difficulties with because everybody in the country naturally will speak the language of the country. So it may be difficult to find opportunities for that. And so the question also becomes like during the breaks, especially, how do you motivate your students to turn off the TV and to actually go outside and have fun and speak English? And that's not always the easiest thing in the world to do, especially when the friends will use their native tongue. But there are some ways that I found with my students, and these are actually my students right here. And we used to host a lot of events for them. Like we'd always have like a barbecue or end of the year party and things like that. But one of the ways is that we can have them learn particularly online, and we can send them to different websites, or we can make it our lessons and the things that we have online represent video games, because the great thing about video games is that these are created to be the kind of learning in the world that the students want to be a part of. When you enter a video game, if you played a video game, then you'll notice that many of the video games have modern music. They have the English songs that the kids love, the graphics, 3D representation, and they have really cool things that the kids really, really enjoy. But adults as well. And so the video game industry is billions of dollars, and they've had a lot of research that shows that games such as World of Warcraft really help English language learners to speak English, that a lot of the people will learn English this way because they want to speak to the people in other countries and the game is in English. So I think we can learn a lot from it. And one of the ways is that it's social. And what I mean is not to necessarily make video games part of the lesson, although you can do that. But another way is to make your curriculum kind of resemble video games as well, or just adopt some of the features. And Paul Maglione, he did a presentation. He does English Attack, and that's actually the kids can actually go there, EnglishAttack.com, and they can practice their English, and it's some of the features are free. But it's social. Nowadays, when you go into games, you actually are part of a community, and you can play in different teams worldwide. So it's very motivational. It's goal oriented. You have to complete a task to get to the next level. But the great thing about video games is that you have plenty of time to keep trying and trying and trying. So the positive stress is that you can be a hero when you actually complete the task. So all of these are really great parts of video games. But you can do this on your own. I think one of the ways is you can set up tasks in a wiki, and that's what I did. I did that with my students in Germany from the ages of 4 to 10 years old. And so I actually put games that they could play, but it was set up by themes. Here is one particular theme. It's called the parts of the body. And in here, I tell them like what book we read, so that way they can actually read books. And I do encourage them to go outside to parks and things like that to read their English books, because I think that's a big part of the fun of reading is that you get to read in different kinds of places. So if the weather is nice, that would be good. Or they can even go to the library or a nice quiet area, community area, yeah, to read. Um, I suggest a game that they can play online that matches the theme. And then I also suggest activities they can do at home. And that way they can like sing a song and things like that. They don't necessarily have to do something on the computer. And a great way to do that, especially for young learners, is to get the parents involved. So a lot of times I'll recommend games that parents can play with their kids on the wiki. So like for superheroes, one of the games was see how many verbs your child can come up with and pretend you are saving another toy. that was one of the games. Or to play a pretend game with your child where you and your child pick a toy and then pretend you're superheroes and then you name the powers that you have. And then they can practice particular phrases that way as well. But you can always do something like I Spy. There are so many games. Card games. I love to suggest card games for parents to play in English with their kids. And a lot of times the parents appreciate this because that way they can get their kids to speak English with them. But also, it's a fun way to get their kids busy in the car so that way they don't bother them of where they're going. And during the break, sometimes they'll travel great distances um, to get to another location or to visit family. So they appreciate those kind of card games. And you can take games that you would normally play in your native tongue, games that the parents may be familiar with in the kids, and just ask or suggest that they do it in English. Now, if you're teaching young learners, a lot of the different games that I got was from the Kinder site. And the Kinder site is fantastic. It has thousands and thousands of games. They're divided by grade level, and it has like a little description that tells you what kind of games. Now you can even find games in other languages like Spanish and different languages as well. So the Kinder site is a great place to find games to match different themes and topics. But you can also, if you have teenagers that you teach or adult learners, then you can go to this one. And this is a great game. This is called urgentevoke.com. And this is actually created for people to try and solve world problems. So it teaches about humanity as well. So not only does the student use English, but they actually solve problems like famine. And you can see here how it has really cool graphics. It looks like a graphic novel. So this is one of the games that you can suggest. And you can suggest also Wii games or any type of games that you know out there. Graham Stanley actually has this wonderful blog called digitaleLTplay.com. And Digital ELT Play, him and Kyle Meyer have tons of games. And you can just do a search and you can find something on any topic. And they're really great for English language learners. You can, let's say you don't want to use a wiki. Well, you can always set up a social network if you don't have one. A great one is you can do it through a blog, you can do it through a Ning, Edmodo, a Facebook group. And there's different types of features that come with that. The great thing is that are made for language learners. For example, a chat. So that's one way to get your students in these types of social networks to really get them to speak English outside of the classroom. They create profiles, they can use polling features, they can upload files, they can upload multimedia, they can embed objects in a lot of these social networks, and they can comment with each other. One of the ones that does it fantastically is myenglish.com. And you can even get your students on there if you don't want to create your own website. The great thing about myenglish.com is that it has over 49,000 members from all over the world. So it's a very active site. It's actually the most active site. Let me freeze my frame and then maybe, Ola, your computer will work better. So hopefully. And so the great thing about myenglish.com is that it already has a lot of things set up, and it already has things that are interactive, so you don't have to spend the time doing it. Myenglish.com does something really good. So if you do set up a social network for your students, one of the things you might want to do is offer lots of different choices. At myenglishclub.com, you have ESL games, you have ESL quizzes, business English, chat, forums, videos, galleries. So there's so many different options. So when a student is bored, they actually can go on there and they can do different things, and they have a choice in case they want to play a game or they want to chat. And I think that's really good because all of these activities I make optional for kids in the break. And I find that the students actually will complete these because they're bored and they want something to do. But I'll show you other ways to motivate them aside from having grades. set up a chat, a regular chat. And when this is what the chat looks like, you can do this through Instant Messenger as well, or Yahoo Messenger, or Google Chat. There's many, many different ways to do this. Skype. There's so many free chat engines for students. So if you can't get a link, or you don't have it on, you don't have your students on My EC, then there's lots of ways that you can still have a chat. And you can see how the chat goes. It's really great for English language learners because they have different things to do. Designate moderators. See, you don't have to be a part of the chat all the time, but there are definitely students inside your particular classroom that you know are leaders and are responsible. And so these are the ones that you want to make your leaders. Here you can see the different chat moderators here. And so, okay, sorry about that. And then with a good thing to do is to have a Merry Christmas, Ola. And a great thing to do is to organize theme chats. So that way, for example, and this is what they do on My English My English Club, is that different moderators have suggested things that they want. They decided to do a poetry one, so they actually write poetry within the chat that comes from them. It's English poetry. And it doesn't have to be this way, but you can offer calendar and you have different topics, so that way the students, or you can have questions proposed ahead of time, and that way the students always have something to talk and chat about. The conversation can keep going. They may want to discuss a book, and if they're teenagers, let them choose the book. I mean, the point is, it's motivating them to do something during the break. So I think they definitely should be able to choose the books they want. Now, I see Tyson's in here, and Tyson Seaburn actually made a really great post about using graphic novels. And I think a lot of the students would like to use things like graphic novels to read. And so there's many out there, and those are really fantastic um, for English language learners, because that way they're able to see the pictures as well. And that's, they have a lot of them, especially in Japan and things like that. And they even have classics, like they have Jane Eyre and things like that. So, or they can even use things that they want to use. A lot of one of the books that a lot of them like to read are the Twilight series, and so I really do think that it's really great for English language learners to be able to use these different resources. So this is Tyson's post. Here you go, and that way you can see that. You can have a debate. Have them debate different topics with each other, and then leave an area for a free topic. They can create groups. Let them create their own groups. I think that's a really good idea. Here they have some on myenglish.com karaoke. In case they love karaoke, they can get together and they can actually go out and sing karaoke. And that's a great way to learn English as well. If they're in a classroom together, maybe the parents will take them out for a day to go sing karaoke. And they will use this as a way to speak English as well. And you can see the words, so it's really fantastic. Here they have a lovely country of Iran. Maybe they're groups worldwide. If they're groups worldwide, then they're able to show love for their country. Cooking, they have one for cooking. They have one for anime. So different types of groups that they want to create. Now, a great way to have your students learn and practice English outside of the classroom and during the break is to have a blog. This is one from actually one of the people that I met on Twitter, and his name is Guido. And Guido actually had his his English language learners in Spain. They got together with other bloggers across the world, which I think is really fantastic. That's him on Twitter. And they created a blog, but they would read the others as well. Now, I think it's really great to get on a network where it's lots and lots of students coming together for the blog, because that way you can guarantee comments. And so they got to blog about things they wanted. Here it's really fantastic. This was a blog post on it where the student talks about, these were teenagers, about planking, and even adds a picture of him doing the planking, and then you can see the comments that were generated from it. So I think that's really, really fantastic that they're able to choose their own topics and stuff. He also uses a lot of multimedia. He encourages them to use Photobabble, AudioBoo, VoiceThread, and Video Page. If you have a posturous blog, which is free and it's so easy to use, then the students don't even have to get on a website. They just email their picture or their video or their their post as well, and all of that is automatically posted on the blog. They just send it to an email. So they connected with other classes here. They have on the sidebar other classes they like. A really good thing about the blog is they have tags, and they also list the contributors on the side. They also have archives to easily follow this. I think when you have a blog, it's really good to have not only other countries, but also to encourage commenting from the community. So if you're on Facebook or anything like that, or Twitter, it's a great place to ask people to comment and read the blog post. So you have, if you can make it a public blog post. So Comment for Kids is one of those places. And if you go to Comments for Kids on Twitter, that's the hashtag, then you can ask people to come, and lots of classes from all over the world follow this hashtag. And it's specifically made so they can make comments for kid and student blogs. Now, it doesn't have to be just children. It could actually be teenagers as well. So as long as you have any kind of student blogs, you can use Comment for Kids. One of my favorite bloggers, classroom blogs, is Greta's class. And Greta did something really great. And Greta went ahead and she took comments from her fifth graders in Argentina. And what she did is she collected those after the blog. Now, she didn't grade her blog, and she found that her students, her fifth graders, would blog even during the breaks. And the reason they did was because they were so motivated to keep blogging as long as there was comments there. And there were always comments from all over the world. And Greta actually put a map up so that way they could track where the comments were coming from. But these were some of the comments. The blog was awesome. I wrote stories, and Marcos, my uncle who lives in Spain, read them and left comments for me. So this student really loved that their uncle in Spain was leaving comments to them, and they were in Argentina. People read our blog. Greta read our blog too, and we got comments from all over the world. The blog is the blessed. I blogged all the time when I was happy, sick, bored, all the time. And remember, none of these students were being graded. They just blogged on their own. I blogged about everything I liked, my friends, my pets, my thoughts. So it's good to leave it open. You can suggest topics, but a lot of times if you leave it open, then students will find something to blog about as well. I blogged about my passion, rugby. I wrote about our countries and things important to me. Another thing you can do is create a Facebook group. This is a Croydon youth class, and this is actually all kinds of students from all over Croydon that are learning English are able to post on this Facebook group. The great thing about a Facebook group is that the majority of your students are probably already on Facebook. I was at a conference in UNESCO in Bangkok, and one of the presenters was from Korea, and he had gone to these really small villages where the access to the internet wasn't very big. But even in the small villages, he asked a class of 11-year-olds how many of them were on Facebook, and he showed us the picture, and 90% of these 11-year-olds in this really small village were actually on Facebook. So a lot of our students, billions and billions of people, are on Facebook. So that's a really great place. You can have a private group set up, and these are some of the ways to keep it active during the break. Of course, they can have a chat as well, but they can have like an image caption contest where you put up a silly image and you put a little bubble, and then they get to suggest different types of captions for this. You can poll them on different things, like whether or not they like planking, or if they will skateboard, or they'll read a book in this, or different controversial things as well if you want. Feature student posts and work. So a great way to keep it active is to tag the students. And if you have a blog, then that's a great way to share it and to tag their names. Or work that they did. Maybe they created class videos, then you can share those as well. Have themed photo albums. So kids love to see images of each other, especially during the break. So maybe you can have one of where you went shopping, or Christmas presents, or gifts you brought other people, or gifts you didn't like so much, or the strangest gifts, or the funniest Christmas sweaters, so, or little pets in Christmas wear. So all of these will get a lot of interaction and comments. Fill in the blank. So this is where you start off a sentence like, the best thing I love about Christmas is, or the best thing I love about the holidays is, and then they have to fill in the blanks. And you set it up as Facebook status, and a lot of kids will fill that in. And then they get to like each other's comments. You can set up events. That's really easy to do on Facebook as well. You can play games as well, but you got to be careful with that because sometimes they spam and things like that. Make an advent calendar. This is a great way to get your students really active during the break. They just click on any of the numbers, and when they click on a number, it leads them to a different type of task or activity for the day. Now these are optional, so I try to make it, you wouldn't have this many because it's just how many days during the break. And I always think it's good to leave 1 or 2 days off so that way they can just kind of do whatever they want. This is actually from Sharon Hartle, and she made one that's very adaptable. You just go to her blog, hartlelearning.wordpress.com, and this is a really simple one you can adapt, so you don't have to create your own and spend all that time doing it. And Sharon has her own activities as well. I suggest different types of activities when you're doing this. Perhaps have them look at a video, have them search for music, have them do things outside, free events, Web 2.0 tools, apps that they can play on their mobile device, outdoor activities, tourist attractions, games, and then blogging about it. So this is what I mean. Here are some examples. Like, you can have a mission, and the reason why I put it as a mission statement, this kind of wording, is because then it doesn't sound like homework. It's like a disguise. So you're saying you're on a mission, and your mission is to snap a photo of graffiti you think could be art, and tell us through an audio recording why you think it's art versus just graffiti. And things you'll need: a photobabble app, or visit photobabble.com. This is worth 10 points. And then you get bonus points if you post a short reflection. So they would click on day 1, and this is the mission they'll find. Maybe they'll click on day 4 and they'll find something else. Visit a park, collect a rock you think is interesting, tell us why it's interesting, or create art with it. And then you give them different points as well and what they'll need. There's different ways you can find free events to suggest for them in this advent calendar. There are a lot of times the library will hold English speaking story times, or English speaking different types of crafts. There are plays around your community that will be in English. There are English movies. There are groups or clubs. In Germany, we had free Stammtisch. So I would always look for the Stammtisch events. And Stammtisch means basically that these were English-speaking clubs. They would meet once a week, and it was always the same time. It was usually at a restaurant. They didn't have to purchase anything, and they would get together and they would speak English. So it's a great way to find other people around the city as well to connect with. And that's really good for adult learners as well, and college students. They really enjoy the Stammtisch. And the English Institute or Embassy will have a lot of events that you can find out about. So you can suggest these kind of events in your advent calendar, and a lot of them will be free. So these are different things you can do. You can set up a prize system. So you saw those bonus points and stuff that I was suggesting. Well, what you do is you put them all in a prize system. So at the end, whatever amount of points, then they can actually pick up something like stickers. And everywhere there seems to be these like equivalent of a €1, a $1, 100 yen. These shops are really cheap, inexpensive types of cool things that students will want to collect. Or you can go to thrift stores and find really cool prizes there as well. So there's a lot of places where you can have your parents donate it as well if they would like. You can create a scavenger hunt. It's really easy to do that. It's the same thing as sort of like the advent calendar, except with this one it's even easier to do, I think, because they have challenges. They get rewards for it, and it's tracked by the specific app. Now, this scavenger app is free, and this is available on your Android or on your iPhone or BlackBerry, and it's the scavenger app, and it's a free app. So if your students have access to mobile devices. Organize a global project. This is a great way to get students to participate during the break and speak English, because chances are kids around the world aren't always on break at the same time, and they have different types of celebration. Well, you can set this up easily if you go to skypeforeducators.com, and they have a whole bunch of different types of schools all over the world where you can be able to connect with them. You have e-pals as well, and I'm typing all of these in the chat box so that way you can see them. But e-pals is another great community to have global projects and connect with them. Here's one you can have where the students can find a pen pal themselves. They don't even have to have one set up as a global project, but it's globalexchanges.org, and that way they can have somebody to practice English with, and email and things like that, or do an IM chat and things like that. You can use Google Plus. Now, the great thing about Google Plus is that you can organize weekly gatherings. You can see how they celebrate Christmas together. You can have a virtual Christmas party or a holiday party. You can do things like see whose room is the messiest. With teenagers, they'll love to see that. They can do something where they show their different types of toys. It's really great. You get up to 10 people to do a video chat. I have languages.org, but really this isn't languages.org. Sorry about that. This is actually a featured game on Google Chat. So on Google Chat, they can play games together. They can watch videos. English. If the students have very high-tech computers and access to it, then you can possibly do a virtual event and organize it in something like Second Life. And Second Life, it's really fantastic because they can actually go travel to places. Here we went scuba diving, we went underwater, and you could see all the animals and you could talk to each other. And if it's students from all over the world and it's a global project, then it's great because they have to speak in English. Here we went to NASA and the Space Center. Here we're riding rockets. We actually got to ride these rockets, so that was pretty cool. Have dances, go to the beach, have discussions. This is visiting virtual and like that. So there's so many cool worlds out there. If they have computers to support it, they do need big kind of graphics set up, and it does take a lot of bandwidth. So that is something